Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Tuesday. It is March 25th, 2014, and this is Day 9 Daily number 693, where we learn to be a better gamer. We're 7 episodes away from hitting 700. My chair's a little squeaky, but that's okay. That's actually alright, because it's going to get a lot less squeaky as I keep losing this weight. More updates when I'm in a location with a scale. That will be up north on Monday. We get to do the big weigh-in. My goal is to be below 225 next week, because I weighed in at 225 last week. The mystery continues. In today's daily, we're going to do something a little bit unusual. We're going to look at some rapid-fire games between Maru and Life. Normally, in terms of my analysis, I will pick like somewhat of a longer game and just talk about that game, a lot of the nuance in the early, middle, and late, and all that crap. But here's an interesting fact. In the typical Terran versus Zerg that occurs somewhere mid-Masters and down, Terran vs. Zerg is not a long-form matchup with big army engagements and beautiful repositioning. It tends to be a big play that wins or gets a huge edge and ends the game there. We don't really see that at the tip-top pro level. Most of the time, the Terran and the Zerg seem to have some formalized agreement. Look, we're just going to go late game and just try to micro each other to death. But in this series, both Maru and Life did some very unusual builds, putting themselves in some very unusual circumstances. We'll get the chance to talk about those plays. I don't think there's a single game that goes longer than 20 minutes, which is increasingly uncommon in very closely matched TVZ games. So we'll talk in this rapid-fire analysis about 10 minutes per game about what some of the more critical choices that these players made were in order to get ahead, what I liked, didn't like, and etc. That's what I'm thinking. Tomorrow we'll do a Hearthstone Decktacular with the Control Warrior. Thursday will be a show at 7. Friday will be a show at 10 a.m. It's my day off. Let's go ahead and hop into this game here. Game here. So let's see. It's 7:10 right now. That was a 3-minute introduction. So far, so good. We're going to see if we can get through at least a game and a half, maybe even 2 before we take a break. On Habitation Station, this was the first match in the series, and typically, if you're in a best of 5, the first match is a good one to do some sort of cheese on. It sets the tone. It's a very common play in best of 5s in many different esport titles. You do the insano stuff to make sure your opponent doesn't get a little bit too comfortable. Maru's going to send out the double barracks stuffs. And I think that this is kind of a seemingly weird spot to go to because of the watchtower. But 99% of Zergs, especially at this level, don't do that sort of early scouting stuff. What's very unusual is that Life elects to do this gas first pool play. Now, ordinarily, I'm not the biggest fan of the big sort of pool gas stuff on a map where there's a pretty easy to set up wall off. This one here in particular is very notably difficult to deal with. Why then would Life be considering doing this kind of opening? There's 2 reasons. One, any opening that we screw up is okay when we can get the gold before our opponent. A lot of cheese is very popular on this map because I cheese and messed up, and a gold. Works for Protoss and Zerg, doesn't really work so much for the Terran pieces. Let me actually see if I can change these colors in this game here to red and blue. I cannot. I cannot. Red versus blue would be great, but these are the colors we're stuck with, and I'm sorry for that. Yeah, normally Zerg and Terran can go ahead and take this gold pretty easily, but but Terran can't really take the gold so well against either Protoss or Zerg, just due to the fact that there's speedy things that can kill it off, and the Terran defenses aren't very good until you have a lot of Marine Marauder. Only Hellions can really keep us safe enough to secure this gold, But to have that Hellion count up, we'd probably need to be expanding fast in the first place. So why on earth would Life be electing to do this on a map where it's generally uncommon to be able to assault this front? Because 90% plus of Zergs these days... Oops. Oh, Scan Snap Manager. Oh my god, we got no sound, we got no colors. We're in good shape. 90% of Terrans are opting to go for Reaper openings. I would say on pretty much every map. And we won't really get the chance to see Life exploit it in this game. We'll get to see it in another game. In this particular game, we got the chance to see Life just absolutely rampage through this opening. This is a sort of icing on the cake. Life actually cannot rely on going Extractor speed just to deal with 2 racks, because it's actually only okay against a 2 racks. It's much stronger against the Reaper. Transition into Hellion plays. So I think Life is correctly continuing to make Lings. An added bonus is that if there is ever a low ground command center, it gets romped on pretty hard. So what are these players to do now? How on earth should they be following up? Well, Life has killed off some SCVs, and as we can see, the worker count isn't particularly high for either player. In general, we would anticipate that Maru would be going for something like, in a normal game, Command Center with some Hellions and another Command Center, and Life would be going for a hatchery and maybe a third here at 6 minutes. But all that is predicated on having a whole lot of workers to get enough minerals to do all that stuff. So whenever you're low on workers, maybe because you elected to do it, maybe because you got messed with, something that relies a lot on gas is almost always the correct choice. It's always going to be a strong choice, because you need many drones to saturate your minerals, but you only need 3 drones to saturate gas. So there's a lot of 3-base builds that require you to have 48 drones mining minerals, which is a lot, but you don't need nearly that many. You just need about 30, 32. Then you just pop some suckers into the gas and boom! So I love Fast Layer. Fast Spire is going to be great from the Zerg point of view. I think this is a pretty cool play that Maru does, where he goes straight for some of the higher tech stuffs. Straight for Hellion Banshee. So what's great about what Life's doing, going straight up for Layer, makes him relatively defended against any kind of pressure. He can apply pressure back and get some solid map control. But some kind of funky things wind up happening for our hero Life in this game. Life is kind of forced to hold back, and we're going to see in his economy that he's actually in a pretty good position. I mean, he's trying to do little pokes here and there, it's going to get killed off. But his Life is walling himself in, he's even getting Roach Warren, just in case of something like Blue Flame. Hasn't scouted anything, just knows this. In this position, we're actually going to see our Zerg hero's money start to get very, very high. Now we can see in this spot, Life is just like, well, I mean, there's the Hellions, literally right there. So what do I do with all this money? I mean, obviously there was the attempt that went rather poorly. What I really enjoy about Life's play here is that he just throws down a macro hatch in his main, which is pretty rare to see a player just go straight up for a macro hatch without really... actually, just in general, seeing 3 hatches on 2 bases against a Terran very rarely happens. But in this position, I think this is a very smart play that we're going to see out of Life. He sees Hellions, he sees Banshees, but guess what else is true? Terran player sacked a lot of economy because he went for a 2 racks. So it's not entirely 100% guaranteed that he's going for something like Marines, going for even a standard play. Life, you'll note, hasn't scouted anything still. This macro hatch just goes down calmly, straight up, no problem. Roach Warren is part of the wall off. I think another very smart play. Maru sees a lot of Hellions. It still could very well be mech. And without really seeing anything, I think the coolest thing is that 2 roaches are already being made blindly. There's no vision here. Only just now did Life actually see that was going down. But now that he sees Mech, oh, well, he's repelled. He's gotten map control with the Fast Mutalisks. We get the chance to see now why Fast Mutas is a great choice if you've been battered away from your 3rd base via, you know, a proxy 2 racks. Pushes right back all the way into the main. This step into the main is another way to say, hey, you better be making turrets. If you're really good, well, actually, on this map, it's not that hard, but you can easily see the mines there. So great, cool pressure. More roaches.
Our forces are under attack.
Now, for some reason, I actually genuinely don't get it at all. For some reason, the largely accepted answer to mech for Zerg is a swarm host, and I don't understand that at all. I don't think swarm hosts are very good against mech. I think they're pretty straightforward to walk around for mech. I think that someone who is a little too rigid in his thinking will lose to swarm hosts, because the usual meching player is the defensive, patient one sitting and building up an army, but swarm host is the only composition less mobile than mech. So the mech player should actually be playing around it and expanding more. What I think is a lot better is to expand a lot as Zerg and to be a lot more aggressive, to exploit the immobility of mech. And that's what I very much so love about what we will see out of Startail Life. He's just going to utilize this massive amount of larva to delay getting these gas geysers. So the usual strong opening against a mech in this vein is to open with some Mutalisks, just like 8-9. Not a bunch, just some. Maybe do a little harassment, maybe eat some big shots. But then to do a very nice roach timing push. And because of the fact that this roach warren was part of the wall off, pretty common to be part of the wall off anyways, it was very straightforward for Life to just get himself up speed. So we can see the drone count is right about right. And the most common play in the book for mech, or excuse me, for anti-mech, we see out of Life. Thanks to this 3rd hatch, this play is even stronger. Build some mutas, force anti-air in the form of Thors and Vikings, and then attack before tanks are out. Or I should say attack before the tank count is too high. Very straightforward timing. And one thing that's very cool that we're seeing out of Life is that Lings are being upgraded behind this. Lings are being produced throughout this entire period of time. Many, 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 many Lings. Why this? I think this is a key moment that we don't get to see play out. Everything that Life did up to this point, I think, makes a good amount of sense, but this is a very sexy move. This is going to provide Life the opportunity to make whatever tech choice he wants to appropriately answer what he sees. He's conserving gas to suddenly bust out a bunch of Mutalisks. He can identify that his opponent is going to be weak in tank count and make roaches, as we see. Gas is continuing to be stockpiled up by flooding with these Lings. From an attack standpoint, the Lings are faster and they will show up and defend a little bit more easily. And Maru quickly falls apart with this sort of mech mixture. Drones being just gently added in behind, it's surprisingly easy to keep up these fast timing attacks when you have that extra 3rd hatch. The last thing to get added on is the gas. And notice that right now, if for some reason Life had to pull away, boom, he could just flood 8 to 10 Mutalisks in a very short amount of time. Nice. Gets to GG. Now, I don't actually remember how long Game 2 is. I'm just going to take a peek on this screen. Maru set 2. Okay, that's a little bit of a longer one. So we're actually going to have just a little bit of a shorter of a part 1, a little bit longer of a part 2. The thing that I want to do at the end of each of these little swift analyses is to tinker the 1 to 3 big key points in the game. So the first key point, I think, is Life's decision to go Zergling speed first. Zergling speed before expansion. A little bit hard to tell exactly why. And I'll say, don't worry. We'll see why in next game. Easy. But this set up Life into a weird position, where he didn't really have a fast natural, which meant that he would be low on drones to get a fast third. And so that is the first big move, opening up in this way that cut him out on gas, leading into the second big move, which is going straight for layer tech and delaying that third. Love the decision by Life to get the macro hatch in the main base. Adds a lot of flexibility pretty much no matter what Maru's doing. It's a very intuitive response. I see Hellions there, so I won't expand. I'll just build in my main. It's great. Oftentimes it can feel scary for a Zerg player because he thinks, I really need that third up. Life showed, not a big deal. And then the very simple thing, 3, the big play, getting a few mutas out and then instantly flooding a lot of roaches. Even leaving that opportunity for the transition up. So good. Funky opening, fast tech to layer and spire, and then the good old 9 or 10 mutas into roach attack. Very, very strong against mech. So when we come back in part 2, we're going to see the same funky opening from Life in the second match against Maru in the GSL round of 8, where we will get the answer, why would you go for this speed first opening as Zerg? Stay tuned.